My talk is not about patients, it's actually about you. You lean in and we all win. I look around this room and I see so many people who are really dedicated to fighting kidney disease, so many people who have such passion for kidney disease, and maybe you've spent many good years of your life taking care of patients, educating patients, doing advocacy and policy, or maybe just you're a caregiver yourself and you've been caring for a person who has kidney disease, or maybe you're a patient and you want to change things and make things better. So I need you to lean in so we can win this battle. Because you see, if you walk into a dialysis unit, it looks basically the same as it did 20 years ago. Maybe the machines are a little sleeker, but the treatment is basically the same. And transplantation looks the same to me. Same chronic immunosuppressants, same way of organ procurement, same way of monitoring allograft function and rejection. It's all the same. And now we do have some new medications that we can use to slow kidney disease progression in persons with diabetes. And that's really exciting. But if they're not getting screened and diagnosed with kidney disease, how can those therapies be implemented? So I'm telling you, you need to lean in. We have tremendous challenges moving forward. We have an aging population that's combined with an obesity epidemic. And the public health response to that obesity epidemic, it's like, I don't know if you ever watched The $1 Million Man back in the 1970s, and he would go really slow, and it looked like he was running, or a turtle response. There's been hardly any response to the obesity epidemic, and now 40% of the US population is now obese. And this is really important to us because it's a major risk factor for diabetes. And now 25 million people in the US are going to have diabetes, our #1 risk factor for kidney failure. This means now 37 million people in the US have some stage of chronic kidney disease, according to the Centers for Disease Control. 37 million people. Now, Keith McCullough actually recently published this article, and it's really interesting. He looked at the obesity epidemic and said, okay, if we don't make huge progress in the obesity epidemic, how is that going to affect the nephrology community? How's that going to affect end-stage renal disease incidence? And what he projects is by the year 2030, which is not that far away, end-stage renal disease incidence will increase by 12 to 18%. That means there's going to be over 1 million people with end-stage renal disease by the year 2030. 1 million people. And end-stage renal disease mortality has declined. We've made gains. But if you just look over the past few years, the changes in survival are starting to slow down. In other words, our pace of progress is starting to slow. And this is not good because patients on dialysis have very high mortality rates, right? It's 20-fold higher than age-matched patients without chronic kidney disease. Mortality is higher for persons on dialysis than people with most cancers, heart failure, and it's not appropriate. Of course, transplantation is the best option for patients who have kidney failure, but transplantation is really a waiting game, right? There's 100,000 people who are waiting for a kidney transplant. Every 14 days, a new person is added to that wait list. Every 13 days, someone dies waiting for that transplant. And deceased donor kidneys have actually been increasing recently. But did you know that 20% of those deceased kidneys that are procured are wasted? They're not used. And we really lack information on the granular reasons why those kidneys are discarded. Many of our patients who need a transplant are older. They have a lot of comorbidities. And maybe some of those discarded kidneys would get them off dialysis and help them to survive longer. but we have financial disincentives and regulatory disincentives for transplanting our older, sicker patients. And unless we change that, we're going to stay where we are. We're going to stay at the status quo. And look at living donation. It's basically stayed the same. And many patients may have donors who are reluctant to donate because they're scared that they won't be able to get life insurance or health insurance. They're scared of the loss of employment, loss of salary. The cost of kidney disease are phenomenal. It's $50 billion now a year for end-stage renal disease. For chronic kidney disease, it's about a quarter of the total Medicare budget now. $67 billion for persons over the age of 65 with chronic kidney disease was recently spent by Medicare. The total cost of chronic kidney disease is about $140 billion every year. That's 3% of the total federal budget. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. And as you look from kidney disease from the earlier stages to the more advanced stages, you see that the costs get much higher. If we just then focus on preventing progression of chronic kidney disease, we can really reduce health expenditures tremendously. But our problem is that so many people with chronic kidney disease are not aware that they have it. Now, the National Kidney Foundation has done a tremendous job increasing awareness of kidney disease in the general public. And you can see that we've actually made some gains in awareness of kidney disease for stage 4 chronic kidney disease or advanced chronic kidney disease. But still, more than 40% of persons with advanced kidney disease don't know they have it. And if you look at persons who are very high risk for kidney disease, who should be screened, persons who have both hypertension and diabetes, note that 85% with kidney disease remain unaware that they have the disease. It's not acceptable, and how can we implement therapies if they're not diagnosed? Our biggest roadblock, in my opinion, and what makes me very mad, is the lack of research investment in chronic kidney disease. Let me show you the inequities. Research investment in cardiovascular disease is $4,000 per patient. Research investment in cancer is $2,000 per patient. Research investment in kidney disease, $29 per patient. Over the past 15 years, the years of life lost due to cardiovascular disease has gone down by 800%. Years of life lost due to cancer has declined by almost 400%. Years of life lost due to kidney disease has increased by 69% over the past 15 years. And I say that lack of research investment is one of the major reasons why. This is all combined with a workforce issue, right? We have a major workforce issue, and so we need to change that as well. So I'm asking you to lean in. And when you think about leaning in, maybe you think about the Sheryl Sand book about careers for women, but that's not what I'm talking about. You think about leaning in, if you're in Chicago and that wind comes off of Lake Michigan, let me tell you, you're pushing your whole body weight just to get past that invisible barrier so you can keep moving, right? You use all the weight you have. Or if you like to water ski, I used to water ski, you lean in a certain way. If you want to go a certain direction, you lean in that direction. And the stronger you lean in, the faster you will propel yourself in that particular direction. Leaning in can also mean seizing opportunities without hesitation, walking up to a problem, looking right at it, and saying, what can I do to make this better? And not looking away at it, and not accepting the status quo. That is leaning in. Now there's 4 reasons why I want you to lean in. The first reason is that you're the best person to lean in. You understand this disease. You've seen it up close and personal. You've seen families lose loved ones to this disease. You've seen patients struggle to maintain their careers, maintain time with their families, their grandkids. You've all seen that. You've seen patients waiting on dialysis, waiting for a transplant that they're never going to get. You are the best person for this. The second reason is this thing called mirroring. So mirroring is when you do something and I do something, like you yawn, I yawn. You laugh at a joke, I'll probably laugh at the joke. You wear an Apple Watch, I have to have an Apple Watch, right? Mirroring really controls so much of what we do. It controls what we wear, what we do, how we talk, how we act. Mirroring is incredibly important. It actually is something that we have to be really careful what we do around our kids, right? Whatever our kids see us do, we do. So be very careful what you say, right? Because your kids might say it too, and at school, which might have happened to me not too long ago. But mirroring can also be used to fight kidney disease, because if you take action, others are going to see your actions and take action too. The actions that you take will be mirrored by your peers. The other reason is the timing. I heard Steve Koka yesterday say how we're really facing a critical time in nephrology where big change is going to happen, and I agree. Now is a great time to lean in. And let me give you an example. This is Kevin Longino, the Chief Executive Officer of the National Kidney Foundation, and that's Secretary Azar. He's the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services. Pretty big guy, one of the hugest sections of the US government. His father was on peritoneal dialysis and recently got transplanted. He's completely dedicated to altering kidney disease and get people on more home therapies and transplanted and preventing kidney disease. And I was at Kidney X last week, and Kidney X is like an innovative program to try to innovate dialysis. And there were several representatives and a senator there, and each one of them talked about the phenomenal cost of kidney disease and how it's not sustainable and how we need to do better for our patients. So I'm telling you, it's palpable. The time is changing. The time is now to lean in. The last issue is that the sum of all of our actions will be much bigger than if you just add up those actions together. One small movement, one small leaning in could lead to very big, big actions. And I'm going to give you an example. What if you as a provider start routinely telling your patients that they can access the National Kidney Foundation as a resource? You just make like a little handout and you tell your nurse or someone else to just automatically give this to your patient. And it gets either the information on your local NKF affiliate or maybe the website of the national NKF affiliate and say, hey, these people are advocating for you. You can get information from them. This is a reliable website, and that's all you do. It's all you do. And there might be then one particular patient who does look up that National Kidney Foundation affiliate and gets interested and gets involved. And maybe they actually end up raising enough money to develop some sort of research initiative that improves transplant outcomes, just as an example. And because those transplant outcomes are improved, then those people don't have to get a second or third kidney. So then there's more kidneys that can be transplanted to other people, and we get more people off the wait list. Just imagine that. That's a possibility. It could happen. So don't discount any small action that you decide to take. So I just want to talk about incremental steps, because incremental steps can lead to big steps. And the National Kidney Foundation has taken many incremental steps to improve the space of nephrology, such as the CKD classification system, ICD codes for CKD diagnosis, laboratory reporting of eGFR, guidelines for all stages of chronic kidney disease. Recently, there was a home dialysis conference, and all of that information supporting home dialysis was communicated with Secretary Azar's office. There was also National Kidney Foundation Transplant Task Force conference on the kidney discards, trying to outline ways that we can utilize more of these kidneys that are now being discarded. So there's been many incremental steps. And incremental steps then can take you to bigger leaps. And I want to talk to you a story that really just emphasizes the importance of incremental steps. So I was going to ask you, how many of you watch TED Talks? Are you addicted to TED Talks like me? I love TED Talks. So this is TED Talk from Portland, Oregon, if you want to actually see the TED Talk, and it's really great. And this is Colin O'Brady. He's this crazy risk-taker guy that during his early 20s, he went to Thailand, and he was by himself. And he finds himself on this beautiful beach at night, and the local natives are jumping rope with a rope that's on fire. And this crazy character decides that he's going to jump that rope. But the rope gets caught around his legs and his whole body catches on fire. And he ends up in a Thailand hospital and he's told he's never going to walk again because his legs were so severely burned. So his mom from Portland, Oregon comes and she sees him and she's just like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get this guy out of here? But she knows her risk-taker son and she says to him, you need to set a really big goal for yourself in order to motivate yourself and get you excited enough to get out of here. So what is it you could do if there were no barriers? And he thought a minute and then he said, I would do the Chicago Triathlon. So she's like, okay. So she takes him home. He's still in his wheelchair. When she gets him home, she uses incremental steps to get to those bigger steps and those bigger goals. So what she does is she sits a chair right next to his wheelchair and she says, okay, your goal today is just to get out of your wheelchair and in the chair that's right next to you. It took him several weeks, but eventually he stood up and just all he had to do was just sit back down in the chair that's right next to his wheelchair. So then after that, she moved the chair a little bit further away. So then he got up, went a few steps, got in that chair, and she continually did it. She kept moving the chair further and further away until he was walking. He was running, he was swimming, biking. Not only did he finish the triathlon, he won it for his age group. And then this crazy character crossed the Antarctic without any support and was on television all over the place. So I'm just saying that when you take incremental steps, eventually you gotta start taking bigger steps, bigger leaps, thinking bigger, and not accepting the status quo. So I want to tell a patient story that kind of exemplifies how I'm viewing these bigger leaps. I'm going to tell you a true patient that I have, and then I'm going to reimagine that same patient scenario 15 to 20 years from now. So my patient presents to me, he's about 50 years old, he's got polycystic kidney disease, and he needs to start dialysis. He's got 2 small children, very small, and his wife doesn't want to donate because she's really concerned about losing health insurance after she donates. And she is concerned about losing salary and loss of employment because she feels like she needs to be the support for her family. So he goes on dialysis. And the average wait list time in Chicago is over 5 years. So he goes to all these different centers in the Midwest and gets himself listed at all these different places. And you know, the Midwest, our states are really big, right? It takes a long time to travel from one state or another, unlike here in the Northeast. So when he finally gets the call 4 years later, it's at a center very far from Chicago. So when he goes there, the transplant is complicated, serious complications. And so he ends up staying there for like 6 weeks. And his wife had to go back, and he was there by himself for a long period of time. He finally comes back, and a couple weeks later, he has more complications and had to go back again. And this went on for several months. And I remember seeing him in the clinic, and he said, I just want to be like a tired, worn out, working parent like everybody else. I don't want to do this. I just want a normal life. And I think that's what all of our patients would want, right? So I'm going to take that same patient scenario. We're going to go into the future. The patient presents to me at age 60 instead of age 50 because my friend Ron Perone actually taught me about using therapies to slow polycystic kidney disease in the correct patient. And I had done that, so he didn't need a kidney for an extra 10 years. We got 10 more years out of those kidneys. His wife is willing to donate because the Living Donor Protection Act was passed. And it was passed in most states because of the advocacy of patients and families. And it was also passed at the national level. So she is not worried about losing her health insurance or her life insurance. And in fact, there's a provision that requires reimbursement of salary for the time that you lose from your work while you're donating a kidney. So that's not an issue. But while she's getting worked up, he has to start dialysis. But we don't do dialysis. We actually do an artificial implantable kidney in him. So he doesn't go on dialysis. And don't worry about whether or not she's not able to donate. If she's not able to donate, he can go on the wait list, which has been markedly reduced because we do a better job of identifying chronic kidney disease early, implementing therapies, and we're getting people, keeping them off dialysis, especially for diabetic kidney disease. And we're actually creating clinical consortiums to develop new therapies. And we're linking academic medical centers in all these big cities, and instead of us competing with each other, we're working together to create new therapies for kidney disease. And we have a patient registry that helps us recruit patients much easier. So we have incredible success. And the workforce issue, it's not a problem. In fact, there's a lot of people who are really excited about all of the innovations that we are doing in kidney disease. They're really excited about it. So there's so many people that I decide to retire, and my husband and I purchased this RV, and we go traveling around. It's really awesome. And you might say, oh, this is such a pipe dream. That will never happen. But I want to tell you that Andy Narva published the most exciting paper I had read in a long time. And I encourage you to look this up. But he's with the Indian Health Services, and about 15 years ago, the Indian Health Services implemented a program that all they did was they required the primary providers to screen and diagnose kidney disease in people with diabetes. They put dietitians in the clinic to make sure that all of the patients get medical nutrition therapy. They educated the communities about the importance of kidney disease screening and treatment. They used ACE inhibitors, angiotensin receptor blockers. That's it, nothing really special. 80% reduction in end-stage renal disease incidence in the Native American population. 80% reduction in 15 years. I'll be sure and tell Andy that you clapped. He would like that. But many of you might say, or I've heard some people say, that the success of the Indian Health Services cannot be applied to other populations. I hear that can't. But I say we can. I say we can. Now, leaning in doesn't mean a heck of a lot. I'm not asking a ton from you today. Leaning in can just mean that if you're a member, stay a member and recruit one person. I'm asking you to recruit one member. If you're not a member, become a member. And for all of the nephrology fellows in this room, when you go into practice or you become an academic physician, become a member. And tell everyone else that why you are a member. Tell them, I'm a member of the National Kidney Foundation because of what it's doing to fight kidney disease. Make a donation. Could be a small donation. Doesn't have to be, you don't have to break the bank. And the most important thing is tell your patients' families about the National Kidney Foundation and ask them to advocate for kidney disease. I saw Volker Haas last night. I don't know if he's in the audience, but he and I did residency together at Emory, at Grady Hospital, during the height of the AIDS epidemic. And we traded war stories about what we went through in residency. But I'll tell you, ACT UP, which is the patients and families that fought AIDS, did a tremendous job. And I've only seen a miracle happen because I haven't seen an AIDS patient for decades. And I'm telling you that we need our patients and our patients' families to advocate for kidney disease because Congress will listen to patients. If more patients tell them that we need research investment in kidney disease, things will happen. We will get change. So lastly, I just want you to watch this video that shows how the National Kidney Foundation is leaning into kidney disease.
The special thing about the National Kidney Foundation, it is a group of people who are really devoting themselves to improving the lives of people with kidney disease all over the United States, in fact, around the world. And they touch everywhere. They touch, advocacy, which is going on now. They touch education. They touch research.
I've had the opportunity to attend the home dialysis conference, and it was just so encouraging to see so many nephrologists, so many other practitioners getting together to really talk about breaking the barriers and improving home dialysis therapies, as well as getting more patients to do home dialysis and being comfortable with it.
We, I think, as an agency, are very appreciative of the NKF, their willingness to take this on, and both their expertise and their skill in putting together these workshops, which I firmly believe greatly accelerate the development of therapies for treatments with kidney diseases.
The National Kidney Foundation's KDOQI guidelines have literally touched every kidney patient in America. Since we introduced the guidelines, we've seen a 30% reduction in mortality among people with end-stage renal disease and over 26% in dialysis patients.
Each of the KDOQI guidelines identifies gaps in research, where if we fill that information with knowledge, with clinical trial data, we can improve clinical care for patients with kidney disease.
We want to make the community aware that the patient has choices. The patient has different ways that they can treat their end-stage renal disease, and that they should be able to choose which of those modalities is going to be best for them.
With the focus on education, awareness, improving care, and the quality of lives, I think the Kidney Foundation is really pushing the envelope.
We are making a change in what's going on with our fight and with our battle.
Together, we can deliver much better care and longer lives for Americans with kidney disease.
There's no reason at all that healthcare practitioners, and I include physicians and non-physicians, shouldn't be involved. Maybe it's around advocacy. Maybe it's attending the spring clinical meeting. Maybe it's getting involved with an educational program. It could be locally, it could be at the state level, it could be at the federal level, but get involved.
I just want to end and just say, thank you so much for everything that you do to fight kidney disease, and thank you so much for everything you're going to do to fight kidney disease. Thank you.